morning and welcome to Planet in the Word, week 33. And this week you're going to be reading in Jeremiah, and you've been plodding through that. Sort of these some middle months of Isaiah, Jeremiah, and Ezekiel are really long because the books have a lot to say in it. In a time period where Israel's really going through a lot. And when we read these books, we tend to think of them as very siloed events, not touching, not overlapping. Jeremiah is separate of any other book in the Bible. But really, if we pay attention to our timelines, we understand very quickly that we have a lot of overlap, especially through these parts of the Bible, and it's worth paying attention to. You're going to read a passage this week in Jeremiah that I'm going to read for you in just a minute, and I'm going to show you how that is tied in with Daniel. So, join with me as I read Jeremiah 25:11. These nations will serve the king of Babylon 70 years. When the 70 years are complete, I will punish the king of Babylon and that nation, declares Yahweh, for their iniquity, and the land of the Chaldeans, and I will make it an everlasting desolation. Now, we tend to think that this prophecy of Daniel is sort of floating off there by itself, but actually what we know to be true is that Jeremiah is prophesying in Jerusalem before the fall of the gates under Nebuchadnezzar and the destruction of the temple in about 586 BC. We also have Ezekiel simultaneously living in the land of Babylon, and Ezekiel is prophesying from that side. In addition, Daniel was probably taken at the same time Ezekiel was taken, which was in roughly 604 BC. So we have one stationed up in government, one who is honored by the people even in captivity as a prophet, and a young man who stays behind prophesying in Jerusalem. All of these notifying Israel over and over, you better be careful, judgment is coming. Now, we are aware that Jeremiah's prophecies make it to Daniel, because at the end of Daniel, in fact, in Daniel 9, we have Daniel commenting on them. And let me read that to you. Daniel 9:2 says, in the first year of the reign of Daniel, I observed the book of numbers of years, which was revealed by the word of the Lord to Jeremiah, the prophet, for the completion of the destruction of the Jerusalem, namely 70 years. What he's saying there is that he understood that from the destruction to the time that the years of captivity were to be ended was about 70 years. And if you pay attention to your Bible timelines, in fact, I'm going to put one on the screen for you. We actually have, now again, it's the best we can do with the information that we have, that Daniel dies sometime right after Ezra goes back to Jerusalem with the first exiles returning. So Daniel lives to see the end of the Jewish exile. He was probably so old he could not participate in the returning. He does die in Babylon, but he gets to see the faithfulness and the fulfillment of the Lord. So sometimes we think that these events happen in their own little spaces, and we forget to lay them on top of each other and see the complexity of what God is doing and all the chess pieces that he's moving around. So I hope that helps give you a framework for studying as you continue to read. Thanks for stopping by. Have a good week.